For this iteration of the Scavenger Games experiment, we will be looking at a new test subject. Already, the subject displays notable differences in behavior than the first test subject. Their movement is quick, and their attention flits about the room in a nervous manner. This is subject Nightlight. They are quite different from our previous test subjects. They have below-average stats in most of their traits, with their notable exceptions being sympathy and melee skill, which sit at a score of 0.99 and 0.95 respectively. Their large eyes and short yet pointed ear tullers give the impression of a much more cautious individual. For this test, I will be adding a bit more variety. After all, pitting test subjects against opponents one at a time can get rather boring. A white lizard paired with 2 mole lizards should make for an interesting scenario. Let's see how well the test subject handles it. Interesting. The white lizard is taking on a much more aggressive approach. Usually, white lizards are ambush predators and spend a large amount of time sitting in one spot whilst camouflaged, waiting for the prey to come to them. Ignore that. I'll just give the test subject a free revive. While the mole lizards are merely attracted to the sound of movement and the prospect of prey, the white lizard seems to have a vendetta against the test subject. Finally, subject Nightlight is forced to retaliate in a lethal manner, killing the white lizard, and at some point, one of the 2 mole lizards had retreated. The remaining mole lizard becomes mostly passive once all the activity has ceased. Since I have been using lizards to conduct these tests, how about I try adding some different creatures on the food chain? One spider is usually easy enough to deal with, but multiple wolf spiders can be a bit more challenging to evade. Here we see an example of bleed out. You may have noticed that the test subject did not die instantly. That is because when a creature's health reaches negative numbers, they enter the bleed out state, in which with each second that passes, the creature has a chance to die. The higher the negative number is, the more likely they are to die. Also, wolf spiders have the unique ability to revive each other via injection of a hyperstimulant venom, which has the effect of temporarily reactivating the deceased spider's neural system. But enough about that. This is meant to be a scavenger-oriented experiment. So let us move on to the next phase of testing. This time, we will be taking a look at group synergy with scavengers. That's right. All the scavengers seen in the previous poll will be present for this test. No need to thank me. I was getting bored of the current roster, and I realized that the current method of choosing which scavenger to test meant leaving all of the losers to clog up the next poll, with only 1 or 2 new faces to choose. And I have a long list of scavenger specimens I have collected over the cycles. The social bonds between scavengers hold strong even among individuals who should logically be complete strangers to each other. To scavengers, a scavenger can do no wrong, even when they accidentally murder one another. Subject Cat is the first to begin pointing out the danger as it spawns in. Scavengers only point when communicating with their group. You may have noticed that whenever I spawn in a scavenger alone for a test, they don't bother using these signals, which is an interesting detail. Since most of these scavengers score below average on their traits, their first instinct is to flee to the farthest corner of the test chamber. Out of all of the test subjects present, Subject Nelly has the highest score in aggression, which is reflected by the way they stoop down on the floor of the chamber to be more level with the opponent. The mole lizard has a spear in its side, yet it insists on continuing the hunt instead of retreating back to a den. So I'll add a caramel lizard. Quite the throw from Subject Nelly. Nemo makes the mistake of idling in a spot that the caramel can reach, and for a brief moment, they are incapacitated. Thankfully, Nelly comes to the rescue, and the bite wasn't lethal. As soon as the danger has been dealt with, Nemo and Cat are quick to return to foraging, while Subjects Nightlight and Nelly continue to move about in agitation. The test subjects have survived the first group test. Now let's try pitting them against another group with their own level of synergy. The other scavengers are too timid to help Nightlight. Their inaction causes their fellow scavenger to be eliminated as a result. Nemo kills the first orange lizard. 2 lizards now remain. Nellie is almost eliminated, but the typical orange lizard infighting causes them to lose hold of their prey, and Nellie makes a quick getaway in the ensuing confusion. Unfortunately, Cat is the next to be eliminated, while Nemo watches on, doing nothing. Now that one of the lizards is wounded, the synergy of the pack has become severely hampered. Orange lizards rely on each other in order to function properly. Without their telepathic connection, they become confused and disoriented. The bat flies appear to be causing a sort of sensory overload for the remaining orange lizard. And yet the orange lizards seem to be attracted to the swarm. This may be due to the fact that the bat flies are making quite a lot of noise while fornicating with the plant detritus on the floor. Despite the lizard's apparent distraction, the remaining scavengers are still having trouble actually finishing them off. I'm not sure why they are so hesitant. Perhaps they do not view the crippled lizards as a high enough threat anymore. Or maybe their reduction in numbers has made the scavengers more cautious about engaging in combat. Either way, this test will not end until one side is eliminated. That was a close one. If the aim had been just a centimeter or two higher, Nellie would be the last scavenger standing. Now the remaining orange lizard has become completely incapable of catching prey. Without another orange lizard around to share telepathic signals, it is practically half blind and deaf. and so it returns to the only source of noise that it can detect consistently. Meanwhile, Nemo gets a hold of the electric spear and eventually puts the orange lizard out of its misery. This concludes this iteration of the Scavenger Games.